Our engine of movement, sounds of commonality, connections, and capitalism, replaced by the silence of barren streets, the sirens of public crisis, and the discourse of an election past. These images are etched into America's history, but so is our response. We've leveraged technology to make memories with those we love, and we've learned more about our colleagues as their homes became their offices. During the darkness, because of you, we've continued to shine our light through applied financial knowledge and education, delivered to financial professionals and nonprofit and corporate leaders, those on the front line and in the C-suites responsible for bringing financial stability when it's been needed most. We've supported new careers, promoted diverse voices, engaged on the conversations of the day, and continued to deliver meaning to markets and the issues that matter. While we itch to turn the page, we must first acknowledge the mass loss of life and express our thoughts and prayers with all those impacted by this deadly virus. I take such pride in the college community that's as determined as ever to fulfill our mission to benefit society. Our students continue to engage, our faculty continue to share their expertise, our alumni and donors continue to support and advocate for our rewarding work, and our governance continues to help guide us to a brighter future. As 2021 transitions us to what's next, we'll continue to provide the applied financial knowledge and education to everyone who needs it, helping the people of our nation create, build, and maintain their wealth. Here's to a happy, healthy, and hopeful new year. Let's continue to change lives. It's the stress test of a lifetime, a once-in-a-century pandemic that sent a jolt of volatility through Wall Street and left a far more lasting impact on America's Main Street economy. COVID-19 has not only altered the way we live and interact with each other, but also the way your clients think about their relationship with you. The shift had already started, an industry-wide metamorphosis from product to planning solutions. You create real synergy for your clients when advice rooted in planning incorporates products to meet specific needs. That industry model has become even more apparent during COVID-19. As clients rely on you to mitigate the pandemic's effects on their financial goals, as you continue to fine-tune your approach and value proposition, this Conference of African American Financial Professionals breakout session will explore how to finalize that optimum service model to best meet your clients' needs. You'll learn about servicing clients from other industries and explore your company value chain and principles. The presenters, Michael Sheppard and Peter TarTaro, will discuss how Securian Financial discovered the needs of affluent clients through research done on consumer mindset and characteristics sharing both tactical and interpersonal expectations. The research provides real-life examples at what these clients are looking for from their financial professional. Michael and Peter will also share how the data Securian collected helped the firm solidify ways to elevate the client experience. By the end of the breakout session, you will have an easy-to-follow plan to inform your client service model. Once your model is in place, you must make sure it's workable in a bull or bear market and to meet a variety of client needs during the calm and chaos of everyday life. And of course, when a crisis such as COVID hits. It's been 7 months since we convened through technology's power for the 14th and a half Conference of African American Financial Professionals. We hope, through science and the will of our collective resolve, that we'll one day convene together again. Until that day, we'll continue to connect every way we can. CAAFP is more than one event. It's about carrying out the vision and spreading strategies and solutions that make a difference in your career and your clients' lives all year long. That's why we're broadcasting today's breakout session with the support of its sponsor, Securian Financial. And before I turn it over to Tony Martins, Vice President of Career Distribution at Securian, let me take a moment to thank all of our 2021 sponsors for their support of the Conference of African American Financial Professionals. And a special call out to two new sponsors for 2021, Penn Mutual and Envestnet. Welcome to our community. Now, I'd like to introduce Tony Martins, who will introduce Michael and Peter and lead us into today's session. Thank you again for attending, for your fierce dedication to your clients, and for your determination to help us move forward and benefit society.
Thank you, President Nichols. It is an honor to deliver this introduction. Securian Financial was founded in 1880. Through our insurance, investment, and retirement solutions, we proudly help protect the financial futures of more than 21 million customers throughout North America. Our shared values are the fabric of our company. They are the foundation for how we foster a culture of inclusion and embrace all dimensions of diversity. Through our Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we are elevating our commitment to D&I and giving our employees opportunities to become more engaged and collaborative through special events, guest speakers, and frank discussions. I am proud to work for a company that believes a vibrant workplace is one where all employees support one another and can feel comfortable being themselves. Securian Financial supports the values of community and professional development that help define the Conference of African American Financial Professionals, of which we continue to be a proud sponsor. Now I'd like to introduce our facilitators for today's breakout session, Michael Sheppard and Peter TarTaro. Michael Sheppard is managing partner of Ironwood Drive Financial Group in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Michael has over 15 years of experience in our industry, having served as a financial professional and in various leadership roles. He earned an electrical engineering degree at North Dakota State University, where he was also captain of their football team. Peter TarTaro leads Securian's Practice Development Group, which uses a consultative approach to helping financial professionals develop business processes, enhance client relationships, and drive productivity. Peter also has over 15 years of experience in our industry, including serving as a financial professional. Peter graduated from James Madison University with a bachelor's degree in political science. Please help me welcome Michael and Peter.
Thank you, Tony. Hopefully everyone joining us live today had a very happy Valentine's Day this past weekend. And for those of you who are joining us via recording, happy insert closest holiday for when you're viewing this session. So with that, I hope you'll virtually join me in a very special welcome to Michael Sheppard, who is the managing partner of Ironwood Drive Financial Group. Michael, the audience is yours.
I want to thank everybody for your resilience, for getting through things like that, for staying in this business, for continuing to make the difference in your communities and for your clients. And hopefully the things that we give you today will help you as you continue to grow. Now, we want to make this both content rich and share some stories that will hopefully give you specific situations that you can learn from. And we also want this to be interactive. So we're going to spend a lot of time with you today. We want you to continue to share questions with us, and we will do our best to answer those questions throughout this presentation. And we have two questions that I thought were particularly powerful as I listened to George's comments and that intro video. And those came from Lisa James and Regina Grimes. Lisa's first question was, what's the best way to create a culture of saving into a community that's struggling financially? Now, I'll preface this with saying that there are a lot of ideas and a lot of different strategies, but I do want to just share my thoughts. There are two specific areas that I think can be extremely impactful. One is representation, and two is financial literacy. As far as representation, I can remember that the reason I got into business, I knew I wanted to be in the business, is because I saw someone in a suit come and speak to the class, and it inspired me. I don't remember what that person said. I don't remember what they did, but I do remember how they made me feel. And it made me feel that I could become something. And so I want to make sure that everyone in this breakout session understands that you don't have to be affluent to have influence, and you don't have to be in a position of power to have a mindset of abundance. It takes no talent to drive down the street and go to a school, speak to a kindergarten class and read a book, or speak to some high school students and talk to them about the basics of financial planning or the basics of balancing a checkbook, because they need to see you, they need to hear you, they need to be inspired by you. And throughout this presentation, you will hear us talk about mindset and actions. You want to have the mindset of abundance and the mindset of affluence. Because guess what? Affluent people by nature give. And when they see you giving, it will deepen your relationship. Second question came from Regina Grimes. Hi, Regina. And that is, why is wealth decreasing for African Americans? Now that's a heavy question. And again, there are a lot of factors that goes into this, but I do want to share my story. My biological mother passed away 11 days after I was born. She had 3 boys. Sean, Jimmy, and Michael were each 7 years apart. She didn't have a will, no life insurance. We were not an affluent family. So I was actually shuffled from family to family. My birth certificate isn't stamped until March of 1982. I was born in May of 1981. But I was finally adopted by my mom's sister, my aunt, Diane Sheppard. She was married to Sam Sheppard. Sam fought in the military, served our country, fought in 3 wars. So we moved from Air Force Base to Air Force Base until I was 11 when Diane passed away. Similar situation. No life insurance, no will. PTSD had come back from my dad, so it wasn't the best situation. So I was raised from 12 on by my sister. And when my second mom passed away, we moved to a place in California City called Ironwood Drive. I share that story because as I think about why the wealth is decreasing in the African American community, I think one part of the solution is understanding wealth transfer. And wealth transfer could be at any level. And then also understanding the difference of doing the best you can versus the best you know. My family is great. They did the best they could. And because they did the best they could, they put me in position to do the best that I know. And because I know different, I can be different. And because all of you in this session know different, you can also be different. And if we all do that, then we can turn the tide of that decrease and turn it into an increase, because each generation should stop competing financially with the prior generation and start building upon what the prior generation did. We all know this. We know that it's very competitive and cheap to get some insurance in place. We all know that you should put it in writing. I'll talk a little bit more about what I put into this plan, but one of the main things that we want you to take away from this session is having a mindset of abundance, having a mindset of influence. You have to have the mindset first, and then the actions will follow. If you have a mindset of influence, you will do things differently. You will present things differently. You can share the things that you do. People naturally love to work with like-minded individuals. If you want to continue to go up market and attract affluent clients, you have to have the mindset of affluence, and it starts with you. You can be that inspiration. I like to talk with my advisors about commodity. I don't want any of their businesses to be a commodity. I want them to understand their value, understand their uniqueness, understand the value and the depth of their relationships. And so the first concept that we're going to go through is what a commodity is and how you can go from being a commodity to understanding your value and realizing that you have something unique that people want to be a part of. I'll turn it over to Pete.
Great, thank you, Michael. So as I travel the country, getting to meet with Securian Financial networked advisors from coast to coast, I'll frequently ask groups the following question as it pertains to the value chain of financial advice, as it pertains to you and your businesses. As if I said the word commodity, or that your business has been commoditized, is that a good thing or not so good thing? And so in the chat, if folks just want to go ahead and indicate by saying good, yeah, that sounds great for my business, or maybe that's not so good. Go ahead and just put in there good or not so good into my business. And I see that there are some answers coming in, a nice mix, a nice distribution of good, not so good. And, typically speaking, when I ask that in audiences, there's about half the room that kind of nods to say, yeah, my business being commoditized is kind of good. About 30% will say, no, maybe that's not so good, but I'm not too sure. And then the rest of the room, they're smart because they realize that I'm setting them up for something, and so they refuse to answer. But on the next slide here, you'll see that we've actually got a definition from Merriam-Webster's that if you take your attention down to definition C, a mass-produced or unspecialized product. And it always strikes me that that's the definition, yet I've seen successful financial professionals really tout the fact that their business is commoditized. And so wanted to start there by just really asking this question. And I'm a fan of unique stories, so bear with me for the next hour and 15, 20 minutes, but unique stories that generally get back to our point. And so I was out shopping for Valentine's chocolate for my daughters back last weekend, 2 weekends ago. My wife is currently eating a much healthier a diet than I am, and so I was mostly focusing on them, my 2 daughters, and I was marveling. I was looking at the shelves, socially distant, but I was looking at the difference in prices for chocolates. And it really got me thinking. On the one hand, right in front of me was Hershey's chocolate, which is a major brand. And they were selling for roughly $6 a pound of various and assorted Hershey's Kisses, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, you name it. The average price was about $6 per pound, and there was a lot of them there. And then on the very next shelf was Godiva, considered by some to be the pinnacle of the chocolate buying experience, that was selling for roughly $20 a pound. And so just looking shelf to shelf, $6 a pound, $20 a pound, it struck me that that's a major difference for 2 very similar products. And then I went back to this question about commodities. And as I got home, I made my purchase, and I got home, I immediately came back to my computer and I looked up, what is chocolate worth as a commodity? And turns out on February 29th, it was about $2,600 per ton, which quick math puts at a roughly $1.30 per pound. And so if I'm thinking economical, $1.29 per pound makes the most sense, right? In which case the commodity makes the most sense, as compared to $12,000 per ton of Hershey's chocolate Kisses or $40,000 per ton of Godiva chocolate. And while I have a really sweet tooth, while those may all sound winning to me, putting on my financial planning hat, I recall countless conversations where we discussed discretionary spending, and how one of the ways to value our advice was to get people thinking about discretionary spending in terms of cups of coffee or meals or other expenses as a way to validate my fee. But as well as I do, folks pay a premium for the experience that they get, all right? And so sitting in that store, I turned that conversation, or going back mentally to that store, I turned the conversation on its head. I should have been having the conversation that I should have been having with clients was not to get them to understand the commodities as it relates to discretionary spending, but really what that conversation should have been about the experience that I could provide them as their financial professional. Now, Michael, you have that conversation quite a bit with your financial professionals. And Bailey Guillermo asked a question during the registration about how do you charge for advice? So how do you position yourself? Is it matrix? Is it schedule? Is it gut feel? And by extension, as you think about the value chain of advice, how do you coach your financial professionals to think about themselves?
Thank you for that, and great question. So the first thing is the mindset and understanding your value. So before you move to the categories of fees, you have to understand that you are worth a fee. I play around and my advisors walk in and I say, you're not going to give yourself away for free today, are you? It's a simple question. I want to make sure that my advisors know that they are valued more than any time minutes, that they are valued more than Netflix. They are truly changing people's lives. Finances impacts everyone. And so if you ask somebody what's their cell phone bill and they tell you that number, it's probably over $100 a month. Are you charging them less or more than their anytime minutes? Are you charging them less or more than their cable bill? I start out with that because when you know you have value, when you know that someone's financial future is more important than some of the little things, then you treat things different that you pay for. There's some free stuff that you just don't even want. But affluent customers understand paying for service. They understand paying for a premium. They understand that a professional can help take them from where they are to where they want to be. So first is the understanding from you, the advisor, that you are worthy. You do have something that is needed. Once you have that, we present 4 different areas. So we've got the startup plan. You're basically just need a projection. You want to do the foundation of your planning and get a schedule of systematic investments. And then we have stage 2. Stage 2 is a little bit more in depth. You're taking a little bit more time. It's a little bit more than just a rollover and a projection. Stage 3 is where we get a little bit more complex. Maybe you're a pre-retiree. And then stage 4 is for complex planning and business planning. And now each of those stages have a range. Now, part of the reason I'm not telling you the range is because you know that most clients, psychologically, will go to the middle. They don't want the bottom. They may not want the top. They'll go somewhere in the middle. So as you decide to adjust your fees, you can set your minimum amount, put it in the middle. And then with your clients, you can say, I can work with you in 2 ways. It can be transactional, where I'm simply working like a project, and I may have a product that you need and we can satisfy that need. Or we can have a comprehensive relationship where we start with organizing your financial life, diagnosing some of the areas that might need some help, and then guiding you from where you are to where you want to be. And I can tell you, someone at your level deserves to work with someone that has a comprehensive relationship. Then you show them your sheet, you show them the 4 levels, and you say, which one of these fits you the best? Psychologically, they will likely choose the middle. Set your fee in the middle, they will likely pay that fee. Now, some of you may not be able to charge fees. If that is the case, you can still say you value this relationship, and you just got to wordsmith how you do that. But as you continue to grow up market, you want to make sure to value the service that you provide. We're going to give you some ideas to help that service model be tuned up a little bit, because we're lifelong learners and we can always be better. But I want you to understand, you are changing the financial lives of the clients that you work with. You are doing that in a positive manner. They will be better off working with you than not working with you. You are worth a fee. You get to decide what that fee is.
Excellent. No, I appreciate you sharing that. So in essence, you're sharing with us those types of activities are what's going to put you at the top of that value chain, as opposed to the purely unrefined financial plan that might be that someone could get out of a book or get off of a website. And so really appreciate that. The next the next topic that we'd actually like to dive into just a little bit deeper. So we've started very high level. As Michael said, we're going to go very deep into client service model and the research that backs that up. But I wanted to take us this next level by first examining a couple of different businesses that are considered at the top of their value chain within their industries. And so the three that you've got here, and I've got some great books and great sites for those of you that do like to do some greater reading. But the first one I wanted to touch on was the Ritz-Carlton. So frequently when I look at practice management books, frequently when I'm coaching advisors, we're looking out at other industries, and invariably the Ritz-Carlton always comes up in conversation. So as most of you may know, it's held as the pinnacle of the hotel industry, and it's not just because of its exorbitant prices, but it's because of their dedication to guest and associate experience. As I think about the Ritz-Carlton, the one thing that really strikes me that resonates well, as if I was to recreate a service model for myself, is their expression, "We are gentlemen and ladies serving gentlemen and ladies." And I take that with me as I lead my team internally of financial coaches, as I coach financial professionals out across our network. And then occasionally, even as I shake hands with clients and prospects while in a financial professional's office, that saying really sits in the back of my mind is, that's the experience that I'm looking to give. And that is, I'm worthy of respect, you're worthy of respect, and I'm going to give you every bit that I've got to help get you from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. But one anecdote that I thought I would share, and it was a story that went viral on the internet a while back, maybe 5-10 years ago, was a family that left a stuffed animal. The child left their stuffed animal at the resort. And when they got home, they realized, oh my goodness, this beloved stuffed animal was not in our luggage. So they called the Ritz-Carlton to see if they could find, I think the name was Georgie, was the name of the animal. And in the interim, the father had told the child that, oh, Georgie was just taking an extended vacation. Ritz-Carlton called to say, hey, we found your animal. And the father said, hey, can you do me a favor? I told a bit of a fib to my son that, we didn't lose him or misplace him, but that he was taking an extended vacation. Can you do me a favor? Just take one picture just so that I could show my son that Georgie is in fact A-okay. Well, here's what Ritz-Carlton did. Yes, they took that one picture and they sent it to him. And then they boxed Georgie up and FedExed Georgie back to the family so that he was returned home safely and expeditiously. But in that box, along with the stuffed animal, were a few interesting items. One was a photo album that documented Georgie's extended vacation, and they passed the stuffed animal around and took pictures of the animal by the pool, wearing sunglasses, getting a massage with cucumbers on his eyes, making friends with other stuffed animals that were left in the lost and found, and driving a golf cart. The Ritz-Carlton team even gave the stuffed animal an employee badge and took a picture of him working one of the shifts as a part of their loss prevention team, sitting at a computer looking and making sure all of the guests were safe. They sent that bear back with that photo album and then a box of Ritz-Carlton goodies for the child, football, frisbee, that sort of thing. And what really made their mark was, to the family, going above and beyond was simply finding the stuffed animal. That was their issue. That was their concern. And not only did Ritz-Carlton meet that concern, but they went that extra mile to show that they really cared about their client, their customer, by creating that wow experience. So here's what I'd like you to do. If you've got a notepad off on the side, or if you're taking notes somewhere else on a computer or on a tablet, think about your clients. As you think about the Ritz-Carlton and their experience, we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, and they are really the best at the art of wow. What are some ways that you can show them that you're willing to go above and beyond for them? And I'll pause for 15 seconds just to give you a chance to write down a couple of items. Excellent. So from the Ritz-Carlton, I take this art of wow. I take this elevated state of being and extreme customer focus. The next business that I'd like to highlight is Disney. So at the bottom of our slide here. So my family, I'm coming to you live from my home, and my family's been going a bit stir crazy here in the house. And so one day, pretty recently, I was actually looking up prices for Disney. Now, the last time I was there was well before FastPass. Actually, I'm sad to say it was back in the 20th century. Was the last time I was there, and so I was blown away by looking up what Disney would be for my family, at just how customized you can make your own family's Disney experience. They really have done a great job of putting the power into your hands to say, okay, what's the trip that you're looking for? How can we help make your experience that much more unique, that much more personalized, even though they're in the business of bringing people, mass amounts of people into major parks, right? For generalized entertainment, but they really think about how to make that experience unique to the individual customer. In fact, they don't even call their customers customers. They call them guests. You're always a guest. And their staff aren't staff. They're cast members. And you're a cast member because you're always putting on a show. And that show is what is bringing dreams to what all of your customers are looking for. And so I know as a result of all of this, I know a few of my friends, they and their families, they've actually become fanatics about Disney. They post countdowns on social media for their next trip. They post countdowns for their current trip. They post countdowns for their next trip. They map out their park routes 6 months in advance of a trip. And I find that absolutely amazing. In fact, in reading the book, Be Our Guest by the Disney Institute, one of the things that I came away most impressed with that I think relates back to our business is they are so focused on creating that magical experience for their guests that even when they are backstage, right? And if a guest catches a glimpse of backstage Disney, and there are websites dedicated to how you can catch a glimpse of what's going on behind the scenes at Disney, all of those backstages, all of those glimpses that you're catching are by and large already scripted. So they're letting you in to see what they would like you to see so that it reinforces and never, ever takes away from the business or the experience and the dreams that you as a client are looking for. Now, conversely, I grew up back on the East Coast in New Jersey, close to an amusement park called Action Park. I know there are some folks from New York and New Jersey that are on the phone today, and so I'm sure mentioning that name as a comparison to Disney sparks some emotions. In fact, for anyone who might not be from that area but says that sounds familiar, there was a documentary that was recently released on Netflix and HBO Max called Class Action Park. So in the chat, is there anyone who's familiar with the park or the documentary? And I see that there are a couple of answers coming in, a couple of what I can assume are yeses and nos there. Maybe a few folks are reliving some painful memories. I know myself, I think I still have some bruises from being at the park when I was 13. They are, on the one hand, a badge of honor, but on the other hand, it was an experience that I wanted to try once and never go back to again as a result, right? They did a phenomenal job of advertising, but once you were there and once you experienced the Action Park experience, you walked away wishing that you were in Disney World. And so But I want to bring this back to your practice. When your clients, when your prospects speak to the experience of working with you, would they compare it to a trip to Disney World where you have wildly exceeded their dreams, and that and it's an experience that's carefully choreographed around their unique needs? Or would they compare you to Action Park, where, hey, thanks for the admissions ticket. We hope you don't need to go to the hospital. What are your clients saying about you? And then the third business that I'd like to highlight is an interesting one, both for when experiences go well and when experiences don't go so well. And so that is Starbucks. So as a new financial professional, this was one of the very first sales funnels I learned. Starbucks is insanely popular for their brand promises, knowing your order before you place it, the long lines, the Italian cafe atmosphere, the hip music, and as a result that they have piped in. And as a result, the average price for their coffee sits around $4.50 a drink. Now, I know as a part of my career fact-finding days, I knew to ask my clients, how many cups of Starbucks do you purchase per day? And then I would compare my fee to the amount, right? And I would also then highlight the fact that they could go to a grocery store and purchase a pound of coffee for $6.99, $7.99. And so they could get 2 weeks worth of coffees for the same price of 2 of their Starbucks beverages. The average price of coffee at a gas station is between 99 cents and $1.99. And if we call back to the conversation about commodities, if you were to buy a burlap sack of unrefined coffee beans, you're likely paying less than a penny per cup, right? But yet people continue to eschew those burlap sacks, the grocery store and the gas stations, because of the perceived value of the Starbucks experience and getting your cup of coffee before you get to the front of the line and the like. But that said, they are also a great study for what happens when they don't apply that experience universally. So they found themselves in the news and needing to answer lots of questions from the press and, more importantly, from their consumers, myself included, 2 years ago. And so I call back to them, though, because they are a good reminder that their coffee prices they have charged and chosen to charge a premium for their value, but they're also a good reminder for us of what happens when they don't live out that value promise. So, Michael, as we look at what could be learned from other industries, are there any points that you want to make sure that we walk away from as practitioners with a fine point under?
Absolutely. I think it comes down to managing expectations and understanding that you can build a service model over time. You may not want to be Ritz-Carlton, or you're not going to just get to Ritz-Carlton from day one. You can add things as you go along and take baby steps, because I want to speak to everybody where you're at. The first thing is, do you have a service model that you can articulate to your clients? Because clearly setting expectations and delivering on what you said you would do is how you build trust, which we'll talk more about later. But first, what is your service model? That's a great question. The second is, can you clearly and concisely share what that service model is? Can you look your clients in the eye and say, I would like to tell you what you can expect when you work with me in my practice. You can expect for us to get back to you within 48 hours. You can expect that we are going to do, like George said in his comments, lead with planning first and products second. There may not even be a need for products. It may simply be planning. You can expect to grow with us over time, and you will have the same experience as we talk now, as I am trying to make you a client, when you've been one for 4 to 5 years. Can you clearly and concisely articulate that model? And then are you willing to follow through on that model? What you heard is stories of Ritz-Carlton following through on being extra. They could have just sent that teddy bear back. They decided we were going to make this something special. Starbucks, they decide to make something special. You can make that same decision, whether you're in year 1 or year 10, to do something that's a little bit more special, Tell people about it and deliver on what you said. Build that over time, and you can take your practice from, like me, when I started, I just sold life insurance. And then I learned disability insurance, and then I felt like I was good at risk management and added in some long-term care. And then I started to understand, oh, maybe I can start getting people to save for retirement. And then it came to, I help my clients in 4 basic areas. We make sure that their family is secure, they have liquid cash, they build some wealth, and start to save for retirement. And then it morphed to, we do a full comprehensive fee-based financial plan. We're willing to put our careers on the line for the recommendations that we make and act as a fiduciary. You can expect that we are going to start first with organizing your financial life so that we can properly diagnose and plan for what we need to do next. And we are going to have a service model where we take care of this year's planning, next year's planning, and build a roadmap from point A, where you are, to point wherever you want to be. Now, it may take time to practice language. It may take time to have confidence in what you say. That's on you. You get to decide. Do you want your clients to expect coffee in the lobby? Or do you want your clients to expect a product? Make that decision, put it down on paper, and we'll give you a couple actionable things that you can add to that plan as you go. So I'm going to talk in detail about creating a client service model. I know we got another question, and you wanted to talk a little bit about a change since COVID. Did you want to do that here or go straight into it, Pete?
Yeah, well, so we do have some Securian research to present here. So, continuing to take us from the highest level at the outset of our conversation to now some other industries. Now let's dig into affluent consumers. What are consumers saying? So if that's what other industries are providing, what is it that our consumers are saying to us? And so on our next slide here, I'd actually like to, and we did get a question from Beverly Crawford, who did ask, what are some of the top concerns of affluent consumers? And so that takes us perfectly into our research. So at Securian, we, just like most other broker dealers, most other companies, we're really acutely concerned with what is it that what is in the hearts and minds of our consumers, our clients, and how can we align our business models to really support those folks. And so beginning about 3 years ago, we undertook a venture to not only include quantitative research, so surveys and client profiles and out to the masses, but we also included a research study that's called ethnographic research. So not once we got survey results back and we're able to identify who are the folks that are really responsive to the Securian business model, we wanted to go deeper. And so we sent researchers out to their homes for in-depth interviews. We sent them, they mapped everything that they had in their house. They asked them their thoughts, their opinions, they asked for their anecdotes. They asked for the stories behind the photos that were hanging on their shelves to get that full and clear picture of who they are, what they're looking for in their financial professional, and then how are they feeling out there in the world. So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight here. So the first thing that we heard from folks is we asked them a general question: how do you work with your financial professional? Some folks say they work very transactionally. Michael, you were mentioning that early on in the business, working very transactionally with clients. And then others actually said they had a comprehensive relationship. What was interesting about that research was twofold. Number one, when a client said they worked with a financial professional a certain way, they actually didn't know that there was another way they could work together, right? So in the case of transactional relationships, they didn't know that there were people that could work with them more comprehensively. And then for those folks that said, yeah, I work with my advisor in a comprehensive way, they didn't realize that there were other folks that only handled transactions. And so really, really fascinating that consumers are really fully engaged with their financial professional, however that financial professional works with them. So a couple of things that they said. For those folks that were engaged with in a transactional relationship, some of their expectations were, number one, yeah, you're going to provide me decent growth and that you're accessible for questions. More importantly, they're also saying, we want you to keep us notified. So that in their minds, or in our minds, I should say, transactional relationships really refer to, okay, let's sign the application and move forward, and I'll talk to you in a year. But what we heard from consumers was, if they're working with you, even if it's in a transactional capacity, they expect that you're going to keep them notified and informed along the way, not just in the form of an annual touch base. And then on the interpersonal side, they also said that they believe that they need to have a rapport with you and that they need to be able to trust your integrity. And that to me was fascinating, that having been inside the industry, to me, a transactional relationship would be a one and done, almost like like when I made my purchase of Valentines chocolates. The cashier took my money and that was it. But what we heard from the research was, no, that's not the case. We actually are expecting more. For the folks that worked with their financial professionals comprehensively, their tactical expectations grew, right? So you can see the list there on the slide. Importantly is that you're going to be able to provide referrals and coordination, and that you're able to view my full financial picture. What those two really speak to me is, number one, they expect that a comprehensive relationship really does take into account all of the things that could be a part of my financial life, but they also don't expect that you personally are going to be able to solve every problem. What they do expect is that you're networked with professionals that you can bring in and coordinate to work on their behalf. And then on the interpersonal side, they're also looking for a closer and more personal relationship beyond just having a rapport and integrity. They want to be able to share intimate details with you and vice versa. They want to feel reassured by you during times of uncertainty. And then they will also want to feel emotionally supported during hard times, not just financially supported that, yep, you've got money. Yep, don't worry. I know the markets went down and you're going to be okay. But they really want to know that you're there for that emotional support. And here's the key, is that folks that work with every single person that we interviewed, they came back and said, yeah, we want all of that. So if we're working with somebody comprehensively, we want both. We want both of that. And then every consumer that was working with a financial professional transactionally, when they then had the term comprehensive relationship defined, every single one of them said, yeah, we want that. That's actually what we really want. So first things first, affluent consumers, they want that comprehensive relationship. So let's go a little bit deeper. So there are. We also interviewed a number of folks that said, no, I'm not actually currently that I'm not working with a financial professional today. And on the slide, you can see that there's a breakdown of folks who are both working with someone, who aren't working with someone, and have no interest in considering working with someone. And this slide to me is pretty eye-popping, because of the folks that we surveyed, and this was in 2020 after COVID had hit, there were still 40% of folks that said, I'm not working with somebody and I'm not even considering it. And that was shocking. That was shocking to me, because you would think back in March of last year, that would be the opportune time where everybody would be seeking folks out. And what they said was, no, that we're going to hold pat, and I'll show you on another slide here. But those folks who were working with an advisor throughout the start of this pandemic, the overwhelming response was, hey, this has been a great experience. And you can see some of their satisfactions. Number one, their financial professional reached out to them proactively. They stayed on the same page, and which was around staying the course through the market corrections back in March and the subsequent rises. They also addressed the impact of the pandemic. And you can see some direct quotes from folks. He stayed in touch with me even though his office is closed. So going that extra mile to be in touch, even though you might not be physically in the office. They told me to leave all as was, which seemed the correct decision for me. And my advisor, she gave me many options and scenarios regarding my financial planning. right? The most rewarding conversation I heard from a financial professional was when they were able to call their clients in the middle of all of the market chaos and say, hey, remember, we stress tested for this. We planned for this. Remember, I told you about that Monte Carlo situation or simulation that looks at different possible outcomes. Remember that? That wasn't just numbers. That was me planning ahead for something just like this, and being able to see then the relief that washed over the client's face. Michael, as you look at this slide right here, is there anything that speaks out to you? Is there anything shocking to you or reaffirming to you?
I would say reaffirming for sure. Communication is key. We all know that. And this pandemic has caused countless amount of stress for everyone, including us, in our lives, in our practices. And your clients expect you to rise above that and still be able to serve them. And when you are, because they know what you're going through, because we're all going through a lot of the same service model in the hardest possible time to do so, that says a lot about you. That says a lot about your care. It says a lot about your discipline and your resilience. And so for those that continue to communicate and did communicate in the midst of this thing, you will see big dividends as you come out. I had countless clients and countless people that were clients of our advisors, and we proactively led with education. We managed some retirement plans. We went right to them and said, give us a chance to speak to all of your employees and tell them that this is going to be okay. And if you are a pre-retiree, here are some of the things that you should be aware of. So sometimes we try to go too far and not realize that some of the simplest things can be the most impactful. And I'll add another thing. One of the things that I don't see, or that is alluded to, is just because you are affluent, just because you are an A+ client, does not mean you get an A+ in finance. There are some affluent people that do not understand their finances, and you can still educate them. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you know what to do with it. We see countless examples of that. You are that piece. You are that education. You are that communication of what to do in crisis, how to prepare for crisis, and even more importantly, how to come out of it.
Great. Yeah. And I think exactly what you're saying is playing itself out on this slide right here. So from the folks that were open to working with a financial professional or a financial advisor, they were saying exactly what you were just sharing, is they're looking for that expert guidance. They're at a point where they could use and benefit from that advice, and they're open to it. And they think they could get that you, the financial professional, can get them pointed in the right direction. Whereas some of the folks that are a bit closed-minded, the folks that you said, don't get an A in managing their finances, they're too conscious of maybe some of the press, right? That we've got fees, we've got additional costs, and in absence of value, that's when fees get called into question. We can see that also, for some folks, they feel like advisors have a hidden agenda. I recall an article back in 2016. It was a big, bold headline: financial advisors have the same trust factor as Uber drivers. In fact, when you read that article, the only group that we had a higher trust score than was Congress. And to me, that was shocking, right? But when folks aren't predisposed to working with a financial professional, they might gravitate to some of those things and jump to some conclusions. On the next slide, the experience, so back to the positivity, on the next slide, you can see for those who have worked with a financial professional, and especially throughout the crisis here, you can see some of those positive experiences. Again, circling back to what you said about education, leading with education, right? So those folks really identified that having a coaching session with them was one that they really valued, especially in these times. Conversely, the folks that felt negative, that had a negative experience, you can see they felt salesy. right? So educate your client, bring them along in that journey as opposed to pushing a product or trying to make a sales pitch and pushing products or that don't line up, right? Back to the comprehensive plan. Let's meet your unique situation and meet that with the appropriate advice. On the next slide here of research, so we can see this is actually a pretty alarming slide, and so one I want to call everyone's attention to, so that you're on the right side of this chart as opposed to the wrong side of this chart, and that is, we asked folks, how often do you hear from someone, right? And slightly half of our respondents were hearing from a financial professional. Now, the folks that actually had someone, the key messages that really resonated with them were to remain calm, be proactive. Hey, I'm checking in. Let's provide some historical context. Really, really, really cementing the relationship as opposed to here's the status of your portfolio, right? What does past pandemics mean to me? What are some of the changes that we made so that we could be ahead of the curve from taxes, and more importantly, I think of the relationship, right? And so the needs for guidance, the needs for connecting the heart and mind of where I'm at today versus where I want to be in the future. And then on the next slide here, these are some of the quotes that we got back, right, from those folks who did it the best. And so I'll encourage each of you, be one of these financial advisors. So my financial advisor sends me a weekly email detailing recent concerns and trends. They also sent a few pictures from a recent holiday party just to let us know that they were thinking about them. My advisor called us several times. They call us over and over. They're excellent at tax planning. And then this third one, generic materials, I didn't really take the time to delve into. They don't really, it seems scary, and it doesn't really, I don't get it on my own, and so I'm not interested. So for those of you that do have robust drip marketing campaigns, make sure that they're customized, make sure that they're personal, make sure that you've got enough personal touches that are in there so that when you do send an information piece, that you're able to provide some context and you're able to provide some explanation. Otherwise, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Yeah, and then just a few more quotes on from communication being key. We're still in the middle of this, and so folks are still in various places of readiness and in various places of stress, in various places of fear, quite honestly. And so the more that you can communicate with your consumers, affluent or not affluent, will just deepen those relationships even more so. And then as far as a nice chart for what to expect after this pandemic, so here's what our affluent consumers are saying. In order to build trust and goodwill, we expect that you, the financial professional, are going to provide clear and consistent but proactive communications. We expect that you're going to be flexible, meet me where I'm at. I may personally be comfortable coming into Michael's office to meet with him, but my wife might not. And so we might need to do a virtual session because I may be vaccinated and she might not be. And so we would ask Michael, if he was our financial professional, please meet us where we're at. I'm happy to come in to sign paperwork. She would prefer to be here. And so meet your clients where they're at, offer that advice. Their clients right now, consumers right now, are craving advice and solutions for the people that they care about. And they want to know that you're open for new business, right? And then lastly, they want to make sure that there are safe ways of working, virtual check-ins, the power of the webcam, the power of client portals, the power of all of those is never before come into focus like it is right now. But the most important thing that they're looking for is to be positive and empathetic. And if that's not enough research for you, and I haven't bored everybody to tears, the last thing that we heard from folks, the last thing that we wanted to look into is what's the right way to reach out? What's the right way to connect? Phone remains the overwhelming favorite. And behind that, in-person meetings and email, with text being down at 40%, right? Channels that they use. And you can see that there is real power to picking up the phone. There's real power to having those heart-to-heart conversations, and really connecting with folks. So with that, Michael, I wanted to turn it back to you. Any final comments on the research, or should we press ahead?
Yeah, let's go ahead and press ahead, because now that we have the research and we can make data-based decisions on how we want to grow our practice and the type of service model that we want to have, now that we have the data, let's move forward with strategy. So I don't think that you have to be affluent to want clear expectations, to want to get a call out of the blue, to want to follow through on what you said and lead with planning. So this is stuff that can be applied throughout your practice, whether you decide to work with affluent individuals or not. We're going to talk about 3 specific areas, and I'm going to give you some stories and some details, some language, and hopefully there's a couple nuggets that you can take in creating a client experience model from the data that we just got. Now, there are 3 things that we're going to talk about: guidance, relationship, and uniqueness. And then how to blend those things together in the way that you engage with the people that are near you. Guidance, that's more financial advice. That is, what are you going to provide? Relationship always is important. There are ways that you can deepen the relationship. I always was told, live, work, and play where your clients are. You can share some parts of your life. You can share all of your life. You get to decide how much you want to share and how deep you want those relationships to go. But there are some really unique things that you can do to make sure that everyone feels the same way, as long as you do it in stages and time it out the appropriate way. And then uniqueness. I want you all in this breakout session to embrace being authentically you. Everybody else is taken. Be you. You are different. You are special. Let your clients see that. There are some unique things that you can do where you just go do what you love. Look around. Those are the people that should probably be your clients. So let's go into a little bit deeper with guidance. And go on to the next slide. Now, I'm a firm believer in process. So as we talk about the strategy of guidance and where you are in your practice, it's important that in your face-to-face meetings, you have a process for what you want to discuss. We talk a lot about the fact-finding process, the closing process, but let's talk more about the content and then understanding, are you going to guide them on risk management? Are you going to guide them on wealth management? Are you going to guide them on organization? Are you going to guide them on business planning? First, you have to answer that question so that you have something that you can practice and you can apply. So when you're in a face-to-face meeting, how does it go? Is it small talk for 10 minutes? Is it a recap of the last meeting? Is it the content that you're going to cover? Is it the planning process and the phase that they are in based off of what you've done? And then how are you going to make proactive calls to set it up? I'll give you one thing that I found to be particularly successful as I was building my practice. It's a simple psychological thing, and I call it a plan versus planning. So walk with me. Let's just assume that you take a really good fact finder, you gather a lot of data, you put it into your planning software, and that planning software says that your client needs to save $1,500 a month. But based on the budget, that client can only save $1,000 a month. You pick the number. Well, guess what? That plan will fail 10 times out of 10 because they're not at the 1,500 to 2,000 to 5,000, whatever it is that they need to be. So whenever you do a plan for someone, make sure you attach a deadline to it. So if you put something in your software and it spits out, make sure you call it 2021's plan. Simple adjustment. Because when you have 2021's plan, that means that you need 2022's plan and 2023's plan. And if you simply start to plan 3 years ahead and then revisit and recalibrate every 3 years, then you can say, here's what we're going to do in 2021, here's what we're going to do in 2022, and here's what we're going to do in 2023, assuming that these factors happen, and get them to agree to it now. With that level of guidance in your service model, it puts you in position to deliver on what you told them, as opposed to sell them what you think they need now. Again, you deliver on what you said you were going to do, as opposed to calling and saying, hey, we need to do a review meeting. I got this new product that came out I want to talk to you about. Have a comprehensive service model that has phases and moves beyond the right now. Because affluent customers, as we saw, and really all clients, they want to be guided. They need a roadmap of where you're going to go and where you're going to take them. Be a leader and lead them on their roadmap. That will make it easier to have your review meetings, because you can schedule them. You can say in 2021, we're going to accomplish these 3 things. In 2022, we're going to accomplish 3 more. And we need to meet to talk about this. So now, come next year, when you're sitting in your review meeting, you pull out your sheet that you've already shown them and you say, okay, we've done the things that we said were important in 2021. Now it's time for us to move on to the 2022 planning. Because again, when we met, you said you were here. You said you wanted to be there. We need to move forward because it's important to you. That's a different level of process.
Yeah, I love what you said. I love what you said there, because it's not only leading clients, right? They hire us because they need a leader. They need a financial planning leader, and that's part of the reason that they hire you. But it's what you're offering is not just pure leadership, do as I say, or management, right? But you're actually offering that education, that journey, and you're painting the picture and helping them see their progress as they take each step across that journey. One item I wanted to mention, just so the slide that you see on the screen, we've actually included a handout that mirrors this. So as we're talking about each of these 3 elements, we've also got different tasks. So for those of you that are saying, where can I get started, or how can I put a bedrock down for myself? We've got some tasks that are on here, some best practices that from Michael's business for ways to really systematize that element of the service model. And so as you see here on the screen, we've also got some space off on the right-hand side. And I know that there was a handout. It was sent out today as a part of the reminder. I think it'll come out again afterwards. So as you're jotting down notes, feel free to use that as you think about, okay, so what are some ways that I can offer that guidance, that leadership to my clients? Is it something that's on this list here, or is it something that I'm incorporating from my practice?
Absolutely. I also want to add, as you're deciding the level of guidance that you want to do, think of powerful questions. So it's easy to be in the moment, but some of the best at what they do are students of the game. You need to be a student of your game. What are the questions that you're going to ask that open up the minds of your clients? So you know how you want to guide them. What are the questions that lead them towards that guidance? I like to call that question-centric coaching, as opposed to telling them, ask a leading question that takes them down the path of the type of advice that you want to provide. So again, in this service model, you have to commit to the type of advice that you want to give. And through the American College, you can work on professional development to expand your knowledge base for some of the things that you can offer. Now let's go to the next slide. I want to tell a story. So we've talked about service model. I want to talk about a unique way to get clients. So we're talking about what affluent clients want, what type of service model that we can provide to them, but then you also have to just get to them. So I'll tell a fun story. We're about halfway through the presentation. So, I want everybody to stretch out, and, I'll tell a cool story. So when I was young in my career, we had to make $40 a day, $40 a day. And after a little while, you get a little bit of call reluctance. So we decided that we wanted to come up with a way where we were excited to get this dialing session done. So we came up with the concept of 2 risk calls. I want you to write that down. 2 risk calls. The first 2 calls of the day had to be to somebody that we were scared about. And so, Dr. Stephen Covey says, put first things first. This is equivalent of putting first things first. So we wanted it to be cool because we were calling on people, and there's some people that you call on and maybe they aren't your ideal client and then they hang up on you. But if they were a millionaire or Mr. Big or whatever prospect you're going after, you get excited for somebody exciting to say no to you. Make those first 2 calls. So for about a year straight, we made 2 risk calls a day, every single day. And then a movie came out called Pursuit of Happiness. And it was about a man and his son, who's a dear friend to me now. His name is Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner in this movie, Pursuit of Happiness, was the cold call king. So I was like, you know what? I'm a cold call, the cold call king. And, you can Google anybody, and if they have a business, then you get the business number. So I Googled Gardner Rich. I got the phone number. I called, and his son answered. And I did my normal red letter language that I was reading from a sheet of paper. And then at the end of the call, he said, all right, well, I'll give Chris the message and I'll give you a call. 3 days later, I get the phone call. And it says, hi, this is Chris Gardner, nice deep baritone voice. And I say, I couldn't even remember my name. But I ended up saying, hey, I'm Michael Sheppard. You're going to come speak to our company. I would love to tell you about the work that I do. I'd love to sit down with you. Can we schedule a lunch? And he said, sure. Talk to Colleen. Get that lunch scheduled. Fast forward to the day that he is speaking, and some of you on this call were there for this. The day that he was speaking to our company, I got a phone call from Colleen, and she said, you know what, Michael, I'm sorry, but Chris has been traveling all over the world. He just doesn't want to meet at this time. Maybe he'll reschedule, but I'm sorry, we can't do this. Now, as you can see in that picture, that was a new suit. I wasn't making any money, but I thought that I was about to close, quote unquote, Mr. Big. So after the speech, everybody's walking through, he's signing books, and I listened to a lot of people in front of me trying to sell him things and make things kind of cool so they could, meet with him. And I go back to that call when Colleen said that he had to reschedule. And I asked Colleen, I said, well, what does he normally eat for lunch? And she says, well, religiously, he gets a club sandwich on rye with a white soda. I said, really? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, great. So I immediately called the hotel. I said, I need a private room at 1 o'clock, and I'd like a club sandwich on rye with a white soda waiting. I walk through the line. I shake Chris's hand. I say, Chris, we were supposed to meet today. I heard you're traveling the world. You got to be tired. I just figured you might be hungry. If so, I wanted to let you know I got a club sandwich on rye and a white soda downstairs if you wouldn't mind getting by to eat before you leave. He goes, great. I'd love to. So now I have my time with Chris. During that whole time, I spent learning about him, learning what he wanted to do, where he wanted to go. He was doing speeches at the time. He had a lot of really interesting things. And I just put the listening ears on and asked great questions. After that, my risk calls were for him. My risk calls were to all the CEOs in time. Hey, you should meet my friend, Chris Gardner. We'll come learn about your business. You can learn about him. He gives these amazing speeches. I had meetings with just about every leader in town from those 2 risk calls. And then I'll bring that full circle, which he allows me to tell this story. So after about 6 months of me just listening to what he wanted to accomplish and helping him do what he wanted to do, focusing on planning first and not products, because a lot of people wanted to focus on products. I said, hey, Chris, you're charging a very good rate. You're doing 35 speeches a month. What happens if you lose your voice? He leaned back in his chair and he said, Michael, you just made a lot of money. And so that became a relationship that is now 10 years in the making. And one thing that he wants me to make sure is that picture is from early in my career and also early in his career. We had to get this approved by compliance, so he had to sign off on it. And he said to make sure that I disclose that he is down 28 pounds and he is a type 222 right now. But I share that story because relationships and guidance matter. When you start with them, you end together. When you start with you typically end with nothing. When you start with them, you typically end together. I led with guidance, and I had the opportunity to do something really cool for a really cool person, and that turned into a really unique relationship that I still have to this time. Let's go ahead to the next slide.
Yeah, let's turn to relationship. And so we've got a couple of tactics here. We've got a couple of strategies. We've got a couple of tactics. I have typically in coaching calls with financial professionals related to this as marketing, right? The marketing that you do not just for new clients, but to cultivate and continue to build relationships with your existing clients. From this list, Michael, as you think about what this list on the screen, what are some of the most important aspects that a financial professional can put into their practice?
I think brand awareness is important. How that brand is shared is even more important. So what is your reputation? You want people to know what you do and who you are. And the only way that they understand who you are is if you open yourself up. That if you have a deep relationship with your clients, it makes it easier for them to refer you. They will want to refer you because they know who you are, what you can do, and how you do it. So brand awareness is both how you put yourself out there, but brand awareness is also in the work that you do. People can tell if you're being authentic and if you're not. And they will rave about you and say, you know what? Pete really takes care of me. And I don't know where you're at, but I think you should talk to Pete. I've been extremely happy with his service. And then they will likely tell one thing that you've done that is different than everyone else. And so that's one thing. Education is key. I told that story. There were some things that I was able to educate that were unique and different than what everybody else was trying to educate. And so how do you do that? You do that through professional development. You do that through asking questions. You do that through thinking not so much about what award you can get or what premium you could sell or how much product that you place, but how you can take the person that you're in front of from where they are to the next person that they want, to the next place that they want to be. So education is key. You can educate them on things like that. Now, we've all got them. There are some people who get an A+ in making money and a D- in managing it. Again, there are people who get an A+ in making money and a D- in managing it. And even the people that get an A+ in managing it may not know some of the concepts that we may think are simple. So education is always something that you want to focus on. We have complex products. Know the products at a level that you can clearly and concisely tell them something simple so that they understand it, and then continue to educate them. Part of your service model could be revisiting why they own what they own. Do not expect your clients to remember everything that you told them. Again, do not expect your clients to remember everything that you told them. You are going to have to consistently and continually tell them what they have and why. Another thing that you can add to your process is a summary of every meeting. I do this for every client that I work with. When we talk, I say, here's what I heard, here's what we discussed, here are next steps. That extra 10 minutes not only will help everybody in compliance love you, but it will also save you from a client saying, you never told me about that. So that's another thing that I would put in your notes as far as education, right? After every meeting, spend that extra bit of time. Here's what we discussed. Here's what we're going to do. Here's next steps. Outreach. You can decide, are you going to do it in a team model or are you going to do it in your model? So I have some advisors that have their staff reach out to their clients. And then they love their staff and they'll say, oh, I love Paula. She's so nice. She's so sweet. Or I love Jim. he's always following up. I had a question, he was able to answer it for me. Thank you. Or you can do it yourself. But I will tell you this. When I coach advisors, I believe in being strategic and scalable. Strategic and scalable. If you're going to be strategic and scalable, you can only go so far by yourself. And so you want to build a team model of communication and outreach. There are some things that you should do, and there are some things that you should not do. Understand what things are CEO level and what things are not, and make sure that's a part of your service model.
Excellent. I appreciate that. That we actually had gotten a question from someone on that, Tanya Robinson, specifically asking about teams. But as we move to your third point, or the third dimension of uniqueness, you've also got a pretty unique story about ways that you have not only demonstrated your uniqueness in the marketplace of financial planning, but also a really solid relationship builder. Would you be willing to share that idea with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that you should do what you love, and the people who are doing what you love will show up. You just look around. I love to inspire the youth. And so I'm on the board of Junior Achievement. There are a lot of other people on the board of Junior Achievement who are like-minded and who happen to be brilliant business minds. I have children. I love my daughters to death. I've been dating them since they were born. And so we are in our 12th year of father-daughter dinner dance, okay? Now this is just something that I would do anyway, but I decided that I'm gonna get a group of dads together, and it's basically a prom for daughters. And so there are usually father-daughter dinner dances, it could be at a church or at your private club or somewhere near you. It didn't take much for me to just send an email around and say, hey, you want to do a father-daughter dinner dance? Now, the relationship gets deeper when you are out enjoying time, not talking about business, and you were just there with your daughter. So what you see on the left is when we were at our height, we had 43 dads and daughters for father-daughter dinner dance. And now there are some people that I only see maybe 2 or 3 times a year outside of this father-daughter dinner dance, but then I always see them at the father-daughter dinner dance. And I will share that the pictures of them are not in those chairs, but one of the people in those chairs was the CFO of a large company. And that ended up with me managing $70 million in their pension plan. There is countless business owners in this group. There are affluent people in this group. There are friends in this group. There are acquaintances in this group. But I decided a unique thing was I'm going to do something that I enjoy with my family, and I'm going to do it with people that are like-minded like me. And then after you have that level of connection, that level of relationship, it naturally comes to, hey, why don't we get a cup of coffee? Or, hey, Michael, why don't you tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing? You seem like a good guy. Or, hey, you know what? Our company has this issue. We've got this pension plan. We don't like our provider. We don't like the service. Can you manage pension plans? Well, absolutely, we can manage pension plans. That was the second biggest, client of my career. 70 million like that. My mentors would always also tell me, right? Until 30, your income will reflect how hard you work. After 30, your income will reflect who you know. And so you get to choose who your relationships are with. And there are unique things that you can do to draw people in that think like you, that do the same things as you, that might end up doing business with you. And these are things that you would do anyway. So if you love baseball, go play baseball. If you love golf, go play golf. Just be social. Those people there probably think like you do. Now, you can do this stuff for your clients. You can have a father-daughter dinner dance. You can tell some of your clients and prospects that you want to inspire the youth and go speak in schools. You can tell them that you want to embrace teaching financial literacy. Take those things that you're already going to do that you love and invite people to join you. And when you do, that will deepen the relationship for the people that do. And that could help advance your career. So part of being unique is doing things that are unique to you. There are also some things that are unique to your practice. What is your technology platform? Is your planning software better, and do you use it in a different way than others do? Everyone has access to good software. We all can do a Monte Carlo analysis, but how do you present that? Do you focus solely on that? When I coached about plans, and I went around the country at a prior firm, I used to say the plan, right, the software printout is Robin, you are Batman. Do not forget that you saved the day. Robin tells jokes, has data, keeps things going. So you got your data, and you got this. It's not all about the software. It is mostly about how you use it to help your clients advance. How can you make that unique in the way that you deliver? One of the ways that I do is I start meetings and I say, we can do this. I have a summary and I have the detail. Are you a summary person or are you a detail person? Let them answer. I'm going to go over the summary. The summary is we have some work to do. But the good news is you have the means to do it. And in working with us, we can help you go from what we see in this data that came out to where you want to. But it's going to come in phases. We're not going to try and solve it all today, but we are going to try and solve 3 things. And I'm going to show you those recommendations. And then after we solve those 3 things, we're going to go on to the next. And we're going to have a roadmap of what we're going to do over the next 3 years. What you're going to see in the data is the probability of success with or without the recommendations that I give. That's a unique way of presenting. And you can say that to anyone and that language will work. Okay? So guidance, relationship, uniqueness, all of those things you are going to have to decide how you want to go to market for. So we have a template of things that you can do, but we also have a blank template where you can create it yourselves or simply add your own flavor, because there may be things that you want to do now. And just like I've said, for the clients going from point A to point where they want to be in phases, you may want to phase in things for your practice. Now, you've heard a lot of information. Take one piece and add it. I started out talking about, doing the best you can and doing the best you know. When you know more, you can do more. But it's on you to do it. So I would challenge everyone to articulate your client experience in writing and in practice how you deliver it. Maybe you've already done it. If you have, hopefully we've shared something that you can add to it as it relates to relationship, guidance, or uniqueness. If not, then we have a template that can take you there. Pete, why don't you go ahead and talk about the principles of trust?
Yeah, so I think as we've been circling around and starting our descent from 30,000 feet, we're talking in general, but then about research and now digging into operationalizing a service model that speaks to the needs of affluent consumers. I think one of the themes that resonates and that should be omnipresent is this question of trust. And so, in the spirit of sharing and making sure that we're giving all of the different audiences that we've got, from the folks that truly connect with stories, that truly connect with experience, to those who truly connect with academics. We've also got a little bit more research for you. And so 2 great reads that I would recommend for everyone are The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, and then The Trusted Advisor. Gareth Hassel asked us a question. He said, what's an effective way to get an attorney or accountant to collaborate with you? And I have 2 answers to your question. The first of which is to really digest these next couple of slides, because that second book, The Trusted Advisor, was actually written for accountants and attorneys to think about how to escalate their practice, how to make their practice more of a trusted relationship. So everything I share with you here in these next couple of slides absolutely is applicable for them. And if you can share with them these principles and position it in a way that helps them build their practices, they in turn will be naturally inclined to collaborate with you. So on the next slide here, a couple of basic truths. Number one, that trust building is simple but not easy. Number two is trust is personal. It's that personal relationship. Think to as Michael was sharing his relationship with Chris. Trust is created through interactions. It's that interaction that you bring. Trust is paradoxical. This one's interesting, right? So trust is both rational. I trust you. I trust Michael because of his credentials, because of his education, because of his experience. But trust is also emotional. I trust Michael because of the connection that we have. Right, that he's with me through thick and thin. So it's neither nor rational or emotional, but it's both. It's together. Trust requires listening. Trust can happen quickly. It can also take time to develop. And then last is trust is strong and durable. These are some truths as you think about building your practice. How do I continue to move up that value chain of advice? Trust is key, and trust, you can see some of the building blocks. On the next slide here is a framework that I think outlines both our progressions as financial planners from the beginning of our career, but also really highlights how our experiences are viewed from our consumers, right? So we begin our business, we're at our least trusted when someone is coming to us for our subject matter expertise with a very specific service need. I need an insurance policy update. I need to open up a brokerage account. You're someone that I think can help me with that. And so that's the nature of our relationship. Now, if you can then help demonstrate that you can help folks with their needs, that then elevates you up that curve and is for you to build that trust a little bit quicker. How can I help anticipate and understand your needs? Think back to Michael. Hey, what would happen if you lost your voice? That question right there elevated him from a service provider to a needs-based planner. Then from that point on, developing that relationship, cultivating the relationships makes Michael be viewed as, in his client base, as a valuable resource. I'm going to go to Michael if I have a question about something that maybe isn't in my portfolio because I actually value his advice. And then at the pinnacle, when that trust is at its most abundant, that's when you get looked at as the trusted advisor. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to be in a meeting with a community group. I want Michael in there with me because he's going to guide my decisions. He's going to help me and make sure I'm doing the things that are in my absolute best interest. So back to Gareth's question around how can I help an attorney or a CPA be more collaborative. One thing I would recommend is, number one, walk them through this framework, help them understand where they're at in the value chain for their practice, but then also interview them as you are already a trusted advisor for your clients. So ask them questions. Are they enthusiastically endorsed? Are they someone who their clients would count as a trusted advisor? And let them know that you're taking on only professional relationships for folks that are already at that trusted advisor status. And then lastly, the last thing I'll leave with this section on is a quote I found this morning. People of genius, and it's been attributed to many different folks, so I don't have it as a specific who is it by, but people of genius are admired. People of power are feared, and only people of character are trusted. So be that person of character. But then the next thing the last thing that we want to touch on in our remaining couple of minutes is how to systematize and how to make sure that our models are systematized so that you can be that trusted advisor for many different clients.
Yeah, and we have less than 2 minutes before opening up questions. I'm going to summarize the systematize and just know, if you had a metal fabricating business, you would know how much metal you need to order. You would know how much came in. You would know how much would go out. Systems set you free. Again, systems set you free. So you need to make sure that your practice is built by design and not by default. The only way to do that is to have a system and a process. Do you have a system to contact your clients? Do you have a process to take a fact finder? Do you have a system to follow up when they say not now? Do you have a process to turn that not now into a yes? Do you have a system for you to learn so that you can sharpen the saw and be a student of the game so that you can deliver on the things that you want to deliver? Systems set you free. Set up a system and then just do software updates. You don't have to continue to change the system. Advisors are notorious for it works really good, so I'm going to try something else. If it works really good, keep that system in place. Stay disciplined, and that will help you grow. Successful businesses have a system. Successful businesses have a process. What is your system? Develop your system. Make sure that that you stick to it. Okay, we are almost over time, and so I got the little red ding. So we have some questions that have come. It looks like the first question comes from Kevin P. What is the favorable process to collect data from customers in order to meet their goals? I think the most favorable process is to have a really in-depth fact finder. And when I say in-depth, you can ask the question, what are your goals? That's the first layer. The second layer is tell me more about that. Ask that, because most people, when they answer a question, they will give you the surface answer. And then you need to ask them, tell me more about that. So they go beneath the surface. And then you say, how does that make you feel? And then you'll get to the heart of whatever question you have. And I do that in each one. So wherever you are, it's tell me more about that. How does that make me feel? And then you can go so far to say, how are you going to feel when you accomplish it? Or how long do you want it to be that way? When do you want this to be what you want? When do you want to change? So that's layers of questions. So as far as how do you bring that, just take a really good in-depth fact finder. Don't rush that process. Ask great questions, take good notes, and articulate what you heard, because people love knowing that you were listening. The next question is from Mark T. Is there a specific CRM program you recommend to accomplish these touches with one's client?
I can answer. I can take that question if you like. So I think the specific CRM program is maybe less important than leveraging the CRM program. I've been fortunate enough in my travels, so 15 years in the industry, and as I count on my hands, 4 different broker dealers. Every broker dealer that I was a part of, every company that I was a part of used a different CRM system and was experimenting with other CRM systems. And so the actual system itself is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's, are you leveraging all the features and capabilities? So many of the top CRMs out there have automated workflows. They have pipeline tracking. They have calendars that you could set up. They have tasks and reminders. And what I have found in my travels is there are a number of financial professionals who are only using their CRM to capture name, address, date of birth, phone number, and then the last meeting's notes. So what I would recommend that you do is go deep into what your CRM can do and look for things like automate reminders for yourself and client deepening reports, and how can I automate some of the communications that I've got. So the third question, the next question that just came in, Michael, do you still charge for a product after you have to pay your financial plan?
Yeah, thank you, Guillermo, for your question. Again, the question is, do I still charge for a product after I've made them pay my fee? Absolutely, absolutely. Guillermo, you are valuable. The things you do are valuable. You change people's lives. Think about when you go to a Ritz-Carlton. When I went to a Ritz-Carlton, I stayed in my room. I had to pay for the omelet. That omelet was great. I had to pay for the spa service. That spa service was great. Realize that fees are an issue in the absence of value. People love to pay for what they want, and they love to pay for things that work. So, yes, there is a fee for how you think. I personally love separating performance, product, and planning. So I'll give you an example. I have a client, he was an executive for a large pharmaceutical company. That pharmaceutical company was bought by a global. He's like, Michael, I don't know what 83B election is. What is 280G? There's stuff going on in these countries. I don't have an attorney. What should I tell my CPA? All of that stuff was planning. He wanted to know how I thought. And then when that money came in, he wanted to know what to do with it. And so it was important for him. He found value in my advice. We use products to follow up on those, to follow up on what was needed. The products are a part of the plan. Both of them have fees. So the first thing is to just remember that the things that you do are helping people accomplish their goals. Those who are goal driven and who are going to act on your advice understand that they are going to have to pay for things. And so you don't have to diminish that. Yes, you should be paid for the life insurance product that you put in place. Yes, you should be paid for investments. But guess what? Investment performance, which will be up and be down, right? The fees that you charge for investments should not be the value that you give to your clients. If you solely put your value in investment performance, you will get fired as soon as you are not performing. If you put your value in guidance, in relationship, in uniqueness, then that client will be calling you in a time of need. Probably after you call them already because you're proactive. So understand that you are valuable. Understand that there are tools to make your value come to life. And there's going to be a fee for that. It's like the next question is from Lukendrick, and it's, if you took a long hiatus, how would you rebuild? Okay, so in my career, I started, spent 5.5 years in building a planning practice with Northwestern Mutual. I left to Northern Trust, did high net worth wealth management, so direct client relationships, and then I went into performance coaching in a corporate role where I was traveling the country doing performance coaching. So I was out of selling. But when I came back into field leadership with Principal, after my hiatus, I focused on education and value. So I became more valuable getting my CFP through the American College. I became more valuable going to Cannon Trust School. I became more valuable being knowledgeable about things that were going in the marketplace and continuing to build relationships. I became more valuable getting involved in my community and serving on committees, eventually serving on boards, and then chairing some. Those things you can do no matter what. And then after a hiatus, if you're starting to build a planning practice again, if you've continued to sharpen the saw, if you've continued to build genuine relationships, if you continue to have a good reputation in your community, you can snap your finger and talk to someone and say, I would love to help take you from where you are to where you want to be. So next slide that you see is giving back. I want to close it up with this. I want you all to succeed, plain and simple. I want you all to know that you are valuable. I want you all to know that despite what you may see about robo-advisors and stuff, people need accountability partners. They need authentic, great people like you to help take them to where they want to go. And it's important that you give back. It's important that you pay it forward. We opened with questions of what are some of the reasons that our wealth is decreasing and what are some of the ways that we can impact a culture of saving. Number one is be that change. Be that change. It takes no talent to go out and inspire someone, especially our youth. You can do that through a committee, you can do that through a board membership, or you can just drive down to a school. I make an effort to go to a random school every year. I've never been told no. They won't tell you no to go in and speak to a school. Next slide. Take your own advice. Be your best client. Have a mindset of affluence. Have a mindset of abundance. Keep going. We're going to the estate plan. And put it in writing. okay? You know what you can do that is different. We as financial professionals sometimes need to take our own advice. And we can take our own advice and we can amplify it. Now, you don't have to replicate what I'm doing. You don't even have to do it. But I just want to let you know that it's important to me that the next generation can build off of what I've built. You are matriarchs, you are patriarchs. And you may be building off of what was built, but if more of us do it, if a couple of us do it, you can change a community. If more of us do it, you can change the broader community. If the majority of us do it, you can change the narrative. And so the way that I have changed the narrative is that if I die today, there's $12 million of insurance. A portion of it's going to go to my kids, a portion is going to go to their kids, and a portion is going to their kids that I likely will never meet. You can do that with $12 million of life insurance. I'm not worth $12 million today, but my legacy is in writing, and I want yours to be in writing. And so the kids that I will never meet will know some of the things that are important to me. Pay for their first wedding, I pay for an anniversary trip once they have a relationship. They have to give to charity before they get anything from the trust. There's money that goes throughout the community. I share that because if we are going to continue to move forward, we need to build a base for the next generation to add to. And we all know how to do it. I challenge everyone to be that change. Be your best client. Share what you do because people will follow. You lead from the front and you can make change yourself. This has been a great time spending with you. I wish I could see faces. I hope that some of this content is actionable, that you can implement into your practice. And if there's anything that I want you to walk away from in this time that we spent today, is to understand that you are valuable. What you do is important. Please continue to do it and make a change to the people that you can. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you being with us today. We really appreciate your patience with technology. And now we'd like to turn it over to Mike James, the president of NFP Life Solutions, to close out today's session.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. What a wonderful session. As he mentioned, I'm Mike James. I'm president of NFP's Life Insurance Division, proud trustee board member, and your MC for CAAFP. I want to also just stop for a moment and thank our sponsor, Securian Financial. This program, this session would not be possible without you. Michael Sheppard, Peter TarTaro, you guys did a great job. It was the perfect blend of tactics that can be implemented for everyday clients. And it was also a great blend of research and information that validates those tactics and implemented procedures. I also want to say that if you want CFP and American College Professional Recertification Program CE for today's session, be sure to fill out the CE survey. There's a link that's either coming to you in the chat box or it'll be emailed to you directly. You must fill out the survey by Monday, February 22nd to receive credit. So let me say it again. If you want to receive credit, you got to fill this out by Monday, February 22nd to receive credit. So let me give you some of the takeaways from that session that really touched me. First and foremost, Michael, your comments around representation have become more evident, especially in the wake of what we all experienced in the last year. Seeing ourselves in the people that will give us advice and feedback is critical to mobilizing our community. So I appreciate you making that your first comment. I also think mindset is really powerful. People need to know that these things are obtainable and they can consciously see themselves at the finish line of a program. wealth transfer, those terms. I've been in the life insurance industry now for 30 years. It's amazing to say that. And the connotations that come along with life insurance in particular, not overall financial planning, but life insurance in particular, tend to be barriers to getting into the product. So it's really great to hear you use wealth transfer as that conduit, that way that a person can recognize that they have the ability to affect change in future generations. I loved your comparisons, your value comparisons. You can invest in something today that will secure tomorrow, and your trade-off is seeing the value versus something you pay for today, like a cable bill or a light bill or a car note. I thought being able to show people real life examples of where they need to have a blend of investing in their own life is very, very important. Some of the last comments that you made around relationship and guidance mattering is really, really powerful. People want a relationship genuinely that they can trust and believe in. And I think that helps you give the guidance along a plan that you can implement. And so all of it goes together. So I loved your session today. It was extremely powerful. I want to tell everybody who's been joining today that we've got 2 other dates that are coming up pretty quickly on the calendar. April 29th, we'll be in another virtual breakout from 2 to 4, and June 10th, we'll be in a breakout from 2 to 4. You won't want to miss any of these. It's been an incredible journey. We didn't think we were going to be virtual last year, and we ended up having 1,300 African American financial professionals tune in to that groundbreaking initial virtual program. And since then, we've held countless events and connection points so that all of you can continue to ride that momentum and experience. I'd also like to say that, the thing about the April session that's going to be really special is we're going to get a special update from the American College's financial services team on the new Center for Economic Empowerment and Equality and the college's 4 Steps Forward program. Nothing has made me more proud as a board member to listen to the groundbreaking 4 Points Forward program that's going to be hitting our profession and the community at large. For more information, please visit the American College website, theamericancollege.edu/events. And you can stay in tune to what's going to be happening. Now, if you haven't already joined our African American Advisors online community to engage in mentorship opportunities, virtual study groups, discussion forums, the college and industry communications, and other special events, please also visit our website, theamericancollege.edu/African American Advisors. So, Michael, Peter, I just have to say again, you guys did a phenomenal job. Michael, one thing we have in common is Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner is an incredible individual, and I too was touched by him. So I know once you've had the Chris Gardner touch, you can never get away. So that's awesome. Awesome. And when I shot him a note while we were in the session to make sure he knew we were all tuned in. And Pete, let me just tell you, Securian is a phenomenal company. You're doing great things in our profession. I love the research and the information. We need more of that to continue to build our momentum. So with that said, guys, I think that wraps up our session. I want to thank all of our viewers for just hanging in there with us. Technical issues do happen, Michael, but you were good on your feet, brother. So nice job. All right. Well, that's it for today. And thank you all for tuning in.